You've heard me mention this Kalergi plan many times, and I still, in the back of my mind, firmly believe that what we're witnessing now globally is actually the final nails in the coffin for white nations, and particularly Western white nations, or obviously only Western white nations. And I'll explain a little bit why I just keep believing that, well, I'm going to say it, I actually believe that this is a war started by America upon Europe and involving China as well to destabilise the world. But I do believe the ultimate aim is to completely destroy Europe and the Europeans. There's a reason for this. Woken up today to see some of the tags that the poorer areas are being locked down, not the wealthier areas. Well, the poorer areas traditionally house white people in England, and again, even people are going to say, oh god, some white supremacist rubbish. I'm going to address that as well. I'm going to address that right now. Can you tell me the last time you heard of any white supremacists anywhere, any type of event, any type of march, any type of situation, terrorism? There's no such thing. There's just a nation struggling against a tide of migrants who, combined with a low infertility rate, are going to ensure the actual genocide of a group of people. And it doesn't matter who that group of people are. If it's a definitive genocide as outlined by the UN, which it is, then it's genocide. Whichever way you look at it, whether it lasts or takes a year or takes 50 years. And people have this opinion that anybody who's white who raises a voice about this must be racist, must be, must want the destruction of the countries where the people are coming to as well. And it's just total nonsense. Just don't want to see my island, my people, my heritage, my culture, my society destroyed by a cult. Anyway, I'll touch on that again at some point later. So back to why I still believe that this is part of the Kalergi plan. I'd like to look at Sweden, who didn't lock down. Why didn't they lock down? I think Sweden's already been done myself. I think Sweden has reached the numbers of migrants that they want. I believe Sweden has the wealth to provide the universal basic income, and I believe Sweden doesn't need to lock down to get the people on board to the next set of rules. Sweden seems to be a model for the Kalergi plan, and they seem to be being rewarded for it. If you notice, Sweden's wealth per capita is the highest in the world. They have billions and billions of dollars in bank accounts for their society, and they aren't in debt. So Sweden, it seems, has been praised rather than punished during this whole scamdemic. Africa, from West Africa right the way across, the whole climate's changing in Africa. It's becoming the new green belt for the world. Whoever owns land in Africa over the next 50 years is going to be incredibly wealthy. So if you want to provide an investment for your children or your grandchildren, and you have the time and the money, buy arable land in Africa or African farming stocks, and start doing a bit of researching into the climate change, and also the sheer amounts of lost civilizations that are being unearthed with all of these winds, rain and monsoons. Persia, Sudan, across from Persia into Sudan, if you draw a direct line, you'll find 6-7 vanished, lost civilizations that even a person like myself, I love researching ancient cities, lost civilizations. Say researching, I really like looking at documentaries other people make, because you can't research them yourself unless you go. It's that simple. Go with your sand brush and your trowel and go and take a look. I've never done that, but the evidence for the green belt of Africa, the Sahara, blooming, dying, blooming and dying, is evident many times in our history, and this is what we're seeing now. They also have introduced their own central digital currencies all across the growing region of Africa, and each central digital currency is $1, the equivalent of $1. So in terms of the Kalergi plan, we weren't seeing so many migrants from Africa as we were seeing from Asia, but that stepped up recently when they've removed vast amounts of young working men from the nations that they are turning into a green belt and deposited them in Europe. We're getting to the stage now where again, you're going to have to, you can take this with a pinch of salt, or you can really understand what I'm saying here. I actually believe that the Roman Empire, if you like, well, the Zionist Empire now, through America, has waged war on the world, and this is their war on the world. We know that the rich Israeli Zionists are the ones heavily funding the Kalergi plan, and always have. We also know that the British politicians and German politicians, etc., the people who've won the award that goes next to the Kalergi plan, which is the Charlemagne Prize, and all you have to do is look up the recent winners of the Charlemagne Prize, who get awarded with that for furthering the Kalergi plan, to see why they were awarded it. Because the laws that were put into place over the past couple of decades have only led up to this, and the laws that were put into place were put in by people like Tony Blair, Merkel, and it sounds convoluted, but these people are in the pockets of Israel, and they're card-carrying members of the Friends of Israel, every single one of them. And the Kalergi plan is a Zionist construct to decimate and destroy Europe. And this is exactly what we're seeing, because people are asking, well, if there's no real virus, if this is just a coronavirus that is behaving like any other seasonal flu, but it's being used to decimate us, who's being decimated the most? In all honesty, it's Europe. America will unify around or after the election and become a nation again, and that will leave Europe shattered, full of migrants, broke, borders closed. So I always in my life believed that America would go to war with Europe, because Europe are America's competition. It's not China. As I've said before, you take anything the mainstream media say to you and you turn it upside down. China is not the threat to the world, America is the threat to the world, and Europe is the financial threat to America. A conjoined, strong European nation supersedes America's buying power. Did you know that? Actual buying power. And that can't be tolerated by the Zionist Jews who operate America's finance through Washington and through the City of London. America is the cash cow, but as we stated before, they move west. So when they move west, they're into China and then into India, using America and American resources to take over those nations. People have asked me, do I believe we live in a matrix? Yes, we live in a matrix of sorts, and I couldn't tell you whether it's a digital matrix, whether it's an organic matrix. I'm firmly in mind that it's a man-made matrix, an education matrix, and I'll give you an example of that. Somebody were to put you in a room and say, right, you're not coming out of this room until you write down the names of 500 people you know, and each one of those has to be a genuine person that we can prove exists, and you're not coming out of that room until you write down the name of those 500 people you know. I couldn't sit in a room and write down the name of 500 people I know. I mean, you could if you've got a particularly strong memory for people and faces. Go back in time, start at primary school, work your way forward through job, but I would find it incredibly difficult, and I think 99% of people would. But if I said to you, you can't leave that room until you write down any 500 names on earth that exist, any 500 names on earth that exist, you would be able to write down the names of 500 people you've never met. And they include royalty, celebrities, singers, actors, wouldn't they? Comedians, you shopkeepers, people, anybody. You could do a list of friends with this, of course, but the majority would be people you've never met, whose names you can recall from the back of your mind. That's the matrix. That's what you've been subjected to, and that's what we've become. You can name 500 celebrities, politicians, royals, singers, performers, but we can't name 500 people we know. Cheers everyone.